Okay, so I just want to speak to you quickly about support and resistance, and then afterwards I'll show you a little clip from self-trading today in the markets to back up what I'm saying here. Now, supply and demand, support and resistance, we've all heard of it, and it's a very simple concept and it makes a lot of sense, it's very logical, but people seem to forget about it or maybe not trust it when they're in the moment and in the markets. And I guess that's a natural thing, but you know, it's something that you need to remember is what I'm trying to say here. Everything in life seems to go in cycles, and it's exactly the same in the markets. And I often find myself relating the markets to life in general because it's the same outside of Betfair and outside of betting exchanges, and in the modern world as well. At the end of the day, market forces, you know, are what drive a market. What people want, the whole supply and demand thing. When people want something, then the price sometimes goes up, or if there's more demand, then the price can go down. It depends, whatever it is, in what you're talking about. But within the markets, it's no different. Is what I'm trying to say. So the first problem a lot of the time for people is just to try and identify where there is either this support, or resistance, or supply and demand, or whatever you want to term it, in the markets. And it's not too hard, but a lot of the time, once you've spotted it, it's then hard to actually stick with it. And that's probably one of the main things towards longer term trades, and taking swings within the market. So I see this interesting graph earlier on today when I was trading. I opened up a race, as I do, had a quick scan at the bottom, and I thought to myself, yeah, that graph makes perfect sense to me, obviously in the position of inexperience and the time I've had in the markets, but to somebody coming into this, they're probably going to read it completely different. So I've put this graph on the screen now, and basically what I want to ask you is, what do you see with this graph? Because I think to the majority, they probably see a different thing to what I see. So if you look at the graph, it comes down quite steadily, and it looks as though the horse is steaming within the market, and there's a lot of support for it, or it looks like there has been support for it. But it's a bit of a false reading, really, because if you look at the bottom of the graph where you can see the volume bars, you can see further away from the start of the race, maybe last night, overnight, this morning, whatever it may be, there's very small amounts of money matched within the market to actually produce that graph. So I want to say everything on your left hand side of that graph is probably not that helpful, but it kind of gives you this initial, when you look at it, it gives you this initial feeling that horse is steaming, and then towards the end it tapers off a little bit. Now that's the important bit to me, and that's the bit where the volume has been, because the volume is what drives the market. That is the resistance, if you like, or the support, depending on which way you're looking at it. But that's the important part. So I think a lot of people that looked at that graph probably would have gone, hey, that's steaming, and there could be more potential steam in this. Whereas I'm looking at it going, yeah, the actual important part of the graph is actually drifted a little bit. And lo and behold, if you look at the graph now, at post time, it actually conformed to that. And that may have left a few people scratching their heads. So I just wanted to clear that up. But support and resistance is like, it's a really big issue. It's not the only thing that you can base your trades on in the market. It is very important. But when you tie it together with something else, and an opportunity presents itself, then it is quite an important indicator, as it were. And something I just want to say about that as well is, a lot of the time you see a horse, or probably the same when you're trading elsewhere, particularly in sentiment-based markets. But when something is going in one direction, just because maybe a load of manipulation, if you want to term it, or large money or something pushed it back out for a few ticks, it doesn't mean all of a sudden there's no support for that runner, because the support is still there and it's still the same. But people kind of tend to think, oh, it's gone back against me 5 ticks, it's going to go the other way now. And it may have gone that way, or it may be going in that direction temporarily, but if you look at it over the longer term picture, the market forces, as it were, it has to conform to what the majority actually want for that runner, as it were. So if the majority are backing, then it actually has to come back in, or it's going to have a very hard time to to continually steam. And that's where you can find them little pockets, like I spoke about in a previous video, of value where you can get involved within the markets. But I do just want to stress, never one indicator. When you're picking a trade, particularly a large one, never go off of just one indicator, because it doesn't really work like that. And it's more a case of tying together the little pieces of information and the little pieces of, the little edges you have, and putting them together. And, sometimes you find that they all just fit together and you get this potent mixture, and then you're on for a good trade. So yeah, that's pretty much what I wanted to say there about support and resistance, and I'll leave you with a quick recording from today, just to sort of prove that.
So the market's reached this point where there's this resistance, and I've been watching it for a while, but quite happy to say the favourites reached a point where it's resisted within the market, and the support seems to be drying up somewhat. But the most interesting thing is the second favourite is now taking a little bit of money as well, right at the top of its range. So, I mean, to me that looks like a key point to actually get involved in the market, because they're actually repelling each other as well. And you can see I enter and take a small stake out straight away, as per my sort of execution plan as always. But the thing that's made me nervous right now is the fact that the second hasn't come crashing in just yet. You can't control when it happens straight away, but you can see that resistance just building up on the favourite there on the lay side, and the support is gradually gaining momentum on the back side of the second favourite. So they're working in tandem, and you can see that they're at the top and bottom of their respective ranges there. So it just makes sense to actually take on the market and go against the grain, based on the fact that momentum has dried up on the backing on the favourite, and at the same time it's actually started to come on the second, whereas it had been drifting previously. The complete opposite to what the Betfair graphs almost show us there, and that's how it can be a little bit misleading. Now I've offset my position, so I've set myself in a nice safe position to be trading this market, which is something that I absolutely advise, as you'll know. And it's a pretty seamless trade, to be honest. The only thing is I could have used larger stakes, but hindsight's a great thing, and eventually get filled just before post time there on the favourite as well, picking up 30 quid.